Chosen one, stop right now. I do not mean slow down. I mean stop what you are doing completely. Because what God is about to speak through this message in the next few minutes is not something you can afford to let go by. You did not find this video by scrolling. You did not land here by accident. Heaven arranged this moment. And there is a very important difference between stumbling onto something and being brought to it, a difference that is going to matter a great deal before this message is finished. The thumbnail stopped you, and it was meant to stop you, because the enemy has been working overtime to make sure that what you are about to hear never reaches your ears. He knows what this season has cost you. He knows exactly how close you are to the threshold of everything you have been waiting for. And he has spent a significant amount of energy keeping you just close enough to see it, but not close enough to walk through it. But you are here. Against everything arranged to prevent it, you are here anyway. God says this is the moment he has been preparing you for. Not a moment on its way. Not a breakthrough somewhere further down your road. This moment, the one you are sitting inside of right now, with every question that has gone unanswered and every prayer that felt like it entered a silence that never came back. God is saying this is it, and before this message is finished, you are going to understand exactly what that means for your life. But before we go any further, I want to ask you something. When those words landed just now, what happened inside you? Did something go still? Did something in your spirit go very quiet? The way things go quiet when a truth arrives that you already knew somewhere deep, but had not yet given yourself permission to believe. If something shifted in you just now, I need you to stay, because what I am about to walk you through is going to change the way you see every single thing that happened to you in this season. Let me tell you where you have been. You have been tired. Not the kind of tired that a good night of rest repairs. The kind that lives in your bones and is sitting on your chest before you even open your eyes in the morning. The kind that follows you no matter how much you rest or pray or push through. You show up for the people who need you. You smile when it costs you to smile. And then the next day comes, and the weight is already there waiting. Alongside that exhaustion has been a waiting that stretched longer than you expected. Longer than the timeline your heart quietly set when you first believed for the things that still have not come. You have felt alone in a way that is hard to put into words. Not alone because there is no one around you. Alone in a way that goes much deeper. The kind where you can be in a room full of people who love you and still feel like you are watching from behind a wall of glass, present but not truly reachable. You have given to people who did not give back. You showed up for relationships that took more than they returned. And you have been left quietly wondering why it always goes this way for someone who gives as much as you do. Some of you have also stopped praying the way you used to pray. Not because you stopped believing, but because the silence started to feel like its own kind of answer. I want to stop there for a moment. Because those experiences, the exhaustion, the waiting, the loneliness, the silence, are not only spiritual, they have a measurable explanation. And what science discovered about them is going to change the way you understand everything that has happened to you. Because the explanation does not begin with your circumstances. It begins inside your brain. And what is happening inside your brain connects directly to what God has been building in your spirit this entire time. Researchers at MIT and Princeton spent years studying the human brain in states of deep prayer, heightened creativity, and what they described as extraordinary knowing. What they found was a specific brainwave called the gamma wave, appearing at unusually high levels in people who experienced sudden clarity and accelerated breakthrough. Many of them described the experience simply as hearing from God with unmistakable precision. It is the frequency associated with genius, with spiritual discernment, with the kind of perception that allows you to see what everyone around you cannot. Children carry this frequency naturally. It is wired into them from birth. You can see it in the way a young child learns without effort, trusts without filters, and moves through the world as if they were built to hold light. But as they grow, this world begins pressing that frequency down. The criticism absorbed over years, the disappointments that settle into beliefs, the weight of other people's fear layered on top of their own. Scientists call it the decline effect, and research shows it begins on average around the age of 7 and does not reverse on its own. Dr. Robert Lake, a neuroscientist who spent 34 years mapping what he calls the divine architecture of the human brain, dedicated his career to understanding this phenomenon. What he discovered through decades of research, alongside some of the leading universities in the world, challenged what the mainstream was willing to say about restoration. And what he built in response is not a single discovery. It is a complete sequence, a framework designed to restore from the level of frequency outward, because he understood that a mind like yours does not need to be fixed. It needs to be returned to what it was always designed to carry. Now let me tell you what all of this means about the silence you have been hearing in your prayers. When gamma frequency is suppressed, your ability to receive clearly gets blocked, and what fills that space is a low frequency of disconnection that makes you feel like you are not quite where you belong, even in the places that should feel most like home. The enemy knows this. He positions himself inside that static and layers his voice right on top of it. And what you have been hearing in the silence is not the distance of God. It is the sound of a frequency battle happening at a level most people never learn the name of. Here is what Dr. Lake found at the very center of 34 years of work. There is a way to begin restoring what was taken from you. Not through years of effort, not through techniques that require perfect conditions every single time, through something that operates at the level of frequency itself, something that speaks directly to the part of your brain that has been waiting for a very long time to come back online. And when it works the way it was designed to work, the shift is not slow. It is the kind of change that makes people look back and wonder why everything feels different, even before they can name what changed. Dr. Lake did not release this publicly at first. The findings were significant enough that there were interests in keeping them contained. But eventually, he made a choice. He was going to make what he discovered available to the people who needed it most. And what he built to carry that discovery to them is something I will walk you through in full before this message ends. I need to get there the right way though, because the science is only one part of what I have to tell you today. Because what Dr. Lake found in those laboratories and what God has been doing in your spirit through every single day of this waiting season are not two separate stories. They are the same story, told on two different frequencies that are about to converge in this exact moment. The science explains what happened to your ability to receive. God explains the purpose behind why the season looked the way it did. And when those two things come together, where you are standing right now begins to look completely different than it has. But before I take you there, I need you to understand something about the season you just came through. Because the enemy has spent a deliberate amount of effort convincing you that what it felt like is what it actually was. That the silence meant rejection, that the isolation meant you were forgotten, that the length of the waiting was proof that you were not who you believed yourself to be. I am telling you right now that he was lying. Stay with me, because what comes next is going to show you exactly what was actually happening behind everything you could see. I want to pause here for a moment and name something directly. I am not going to hold what Dr. Lake built as a reveal for the final minutes of this message. Some of you are already feeling a pull toward it, and I will not make you wait through everything else to get to it. I believe you deserve to know what exists before we go any deeper. The decline effect we just described, and the static it creates between you and everything you are meant to receive, is the exact problem Dr. Lake spent 34 years solving. The tool he built as the answer is called the Genius Song. That is its name. It is a 7-minute audio track using brain entrainment technology studied at Princeton and other leading research institutions, designed to guide your brain back toward the gamma frequency you were born carrying. Not through effort, not through practice, through the precision of sound itself. If something in you already knows this is what you need, the link is in the description below and in the pinned comment. You do not need to act on it right now. Stay for the full message, because there is still a great deal here for you. But for those whose spirit already confirmed it, the door is there. For everyone staying, I want to completely reframe what this season of waiting has been doing in your life. Because what it looked like from the outside is not what it actually was. I need you to try something right now. I need you to take every single thing you have been calling your delay and hold it differently. Not as punishment, not as evidence that you were passed over, but as something that was done intentionally, as something that was planned. Because the God who spent 40 years preparing Moses in the wilderness before the burning bush moment was not wasting time. He was building something that the burning bush required. And what God has been building inside this season of yours required exactly this much time and exactly this much silence. And every month that felt empty was not empty at all. Something essential was being assembled that you could not yet see. The waiting was not abandonment, the waiting was formation. And there is a difference between those two things that changes everything. A delay is something that happens to you. Formation is something that happens in you. What was happening inside this season that looked so much like stagnation from the outside was not God losing track of you. It was God doing some of the most essential work of your entire spiritual life in the place that looked the most like nothing. Every month you did not see movement was a month of structural work being laid that the breakthrough is going to need to stand on. The exhaustion was not weakness. The tiredness you carried through every day of this season was evidence of how hard your spirit was working while your circumstances stayed still. At a level deeper than what your conscious mind can reach, things were being removed from you that willpower alone could never have removed. Things were being installed that cannot be downloaded in a single conversation or a single breakthrough prayer. The weight you felt every single day was not the weight of failure. It was the weight of labor. And labor of this kind always precedes birth. The isolation was not rejection. I need you to let that fully reach you. The isolation was insulation. When God is preparing someone to carry something of unusual weight, He does not leave them in every environment. He pulls them back from the frequencies that would dilute what He is building inside them. The loneliness you felt during this season was not proof that you were forgotten. It was proof that what is being placed on you is serious enough to require protected space to develop. You do not build something meant to carry great weight while it is still surrounded by noise and constant motion. And the people who walked away, the ones you gave everything to who left anyway. I need you to hear this carefully. Some of them were not designed to make it into the next season of your life. Not because they are bad people, but because who you are becoming requires a level of clarity that certain connections would have made impossible. The enemy told you their leaving was your failure, but heaven orchestrated a pruning. Every relationship removed from your life in this season was removed with a specific purpose. What God is releasing you into requires your full capacity, and some of what you were carrying was quietly consuming what you are going to need, and the silence in your prayers. That heavy, unexplainable silence where your words seem to go nowhere and return empty. That silence was not the distance of God. It was the recalibration of the channel. God was not ignoring you. He was answering at a level that required your receiving frequency to shift before His response could actually reach you. The silence was not punishment. It was preparation of your capacity to receive what He had been preparing to send. He was not pulling away. He was pulling you forward toward an ability to hold what is coming, and that required the noise to stop first. So let me name what the enemy was doing while all of this was happening. While God was building, the enemy was narrating. He was watching the formation take place and running a commentary designed to make you misread everything you were experiencing. Every month without visible movement became evidence of being forgotten. Every friendship that ended became proof of your failure. Every prayer that went into silence became reason to question whether you heard God correctly in the first place. And he did all of it not because any of it was true, but because he could not stop what was being built. The only weapon he had left was your interpretation. And that weapon only works if you believe the story he tells. You are not behind. I want you to receive that not as comfort, but as a factual correction of everything the enemy has been telling you about your timeline. You are not the person who missed the window. You are the person who was being held back from the wrong thing so that the right thing could arrive at exactly the right moment. There is a word in Scripture called kairos, a word that describes time, measured not in minutes but in readiness, in completion, in divine alignment. God does not work on the calendar you have been watching. He works on the calendar of what is complete. And what has been completing inside of you is almost finished. There is a Hebrew word I want you to carry into what comes next. Kadash. It means newness, but not the kind of newness that is an upgrade of what already existed, not a repaired version of what broke. Something entirely new that could not have come into being without what preceded it, ending completely. What God is releasing into your life right now is not a fixed version of what you had before. It is not simply the answered version of the prayer you kept repeating. It is something that has never existed yet, something that could only be born in the exact space that this season created. You were not just waiting, you were making room. The waiting built something in you that success could never have taught you. The isolation built a depth that community cannot manufacture. The silence built a sensitivity to the voice of God that could not have developed in the noise. The exhaustion burned away every version of you that was still depending on your own strength to carry what only God was meant to carry. And what those people took from you in leaving built a discernment that only that kind of loss can teach. Not one day of this season was wasted. Not one prayer went unheard. Not one moment of the formation was random or accidental. Every single piece of it was essential to what comes next. And now, I want to show you what this preparation looks like in the hands of God. Not as a theory, not as a concept, through a story. A story that has been recorded and preserved for thousands of years, because what happened inside of it is not unique to the one person it happened to. It is a pattern. A divine pattern God has used again and again with the people he is most serious about preparing. The story I am about to tell you is not ancient history. It is a mirror, and when you see yourself inside of it, I believe something is going to shift in you that nothing else has been able to shift until this exact moment. Stay with me. The story I want to tell you begins in a place that looked nothing like a palace. It begins in a pit, dark, cold, abandoned, with walls too high to climb and no one coming. And if you had seen this person in that moment, you would not have looked at him and thought, there is someone whose moment is coming. You would have thought, this is someone whose moment is over. His name was Joseph, and what God did between that pit and the palace is going to sound like your own life. Joseph was the son who carried the promise. Before anything happened to him, before the suffering, before the pit, before the years of waiting, God gave him 2 dreams. And in both of those dreams, the message was the same. You are going to rise. Your family will bow before you. What God is going to do through you will be greater than anything happening around you right now. Joseph woke up from those dreams carrying a knowing. He did not fully understand what it meant, but something inside him knew it was real. And then everything fell apart. His own brothers, the people he grew up with, the people who should have been his closest allies, turned on him. Not strangers, his brothers, the people who knew him best, became the source of the deepest wound of his life. They stripped him of the coat his father had given him, the visible symbol of what he was meant to carry, and they threw him into a pit. And then they sat down to eat while he cried out from the bottom of it. I want you to sit inside that moment. Not the pit as a metaphor, the actual pit, dark, no way out on his own, surrounded by the voices of the people who betrayed him, continuing their lives as if what they had done was nothing. Joseph had the dreams. He had the word of God over his life, and none of it prevented the pit. The very people who should have walked with him into the promise were the first ones to push him into the ground. He was sold, pulled out of the pit, and handed to strangers heading to a foreign country. Everything familiar was gone. Everything he had known was behind him. But something happened in the new place. Even in Potiphar's house, in a land he did not know, speaking a language that was not his own, he began to operate with such unusual excellence that the house was placed in his care. Because what God put inside Joseph could not stay buried, not even in Egypt. And then it happened again, a second betrayal. This time, it was not his brothers. It was someone in a position of power who chose a lie over the truth, and Joseph was sent to prison. Not because he did anything wrong, because he did everything right. He kept his integrity, he held the line, and he was punished for it. If you have ever done the right thing and had it cost you everything, you know exactly what prison felt like to Joseph. But watch what Joseph does in prison. He does not collapse, he does not shut down, he rises again. Even inside the walls of a prison in a foreign land, having lost everything twice, he begins to move in excellence. He interprets dreams for 2 of Pharaoh's officials. He helps them. He asks the one who will be restored to remember him when he gets out, and that man forgets. 2 full years. Joseph sits in that prison, having done everything right, having helped the right person at the right time, and being completely forgotten. Those 2 years are not a footnote in the story. They are a season where nothing visible is happening, a season where the people who could help seem to have moved on entirely, a season where the promise feels like it belonged to a different life and a different version of you. 2 years of sitting exactly where you are, maintaining your character, being faithful in the hidden place, and not being seen by any human eye. And then, in a single morning, everything changed. Not gradually, not through a slow build that Joseph could see coming. Pharaoh had a dream. The man who had forgotten remembered, and Joseph was pulled from that prison, cleaned up, and brought before the most powerful man in Egypt. Not next month, not after another season. That morning, the same man who woke up in a prison cell was standing before Pharaoh by afternoon. And by the time that day was finished, Joseph was second in command over all of Egypt. From the pit to the palace, from forgotten to elevated, from the lowest point of his entire life to the highest position he had ever held. And the distance between those 2 things was not a long, gradual climb. It was one morning, one divine reversal that compressed years of waiting into a single conversation and undid everything the enemy thought he had permanently closed. In one moment, every betrayal became context. Every loss became preparation. Every season of being forgotten became the exact credential that qualified him for what Pharaoh needed. I need you to hear this. The story of Joseph is not just a story, it is a pattern. And that pattern is active in your life right now. The promise you received that no one around you could see. The betrayal that came from the places you most trusted. The descents into seasons that looked nothing like what you were told was coming. The rising and then the falling again. The years of doing everything right and still being forgotten. Every piece of Joseph's story maps onto where you have been. And so does the ending. Your brothers were not his brothers. But you have experienced people who should have supported you, choosing to wound you instead. Your prison was not his prison, but you have sat inside seasons with walls you could not climb on your own. And the man who forgot Joseph, the one who was supposed to open the door and then went on with his life, that person in your story is not the final word either. Because the dream God gave you did not expire in the waiting. It was in the waiting, the whole time. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before the burning bush. 40 years of a different pace, a different depth, a different kind of faithfulness before the fire appeared and the voice spoke. And when God finally spoke from that bush, the message was not about what Moses had missed, it was about what God had seen. Every day, every step, every act of faithfulness in the wilderness that no human eye was watching. The preparation was never the punishment. It was exactly what the assignment required. There is a reason the word kairos exists separate from chronos in Scripture. Chronos is the clock on your wall. Chronos counts the days and whispers that you are behind, that you are running out of time. Kairos is something entirely different. Kairos is the appointed moment, the moment already written before your waiting began. And Kairos does not arrive gradually. It does not ease in. It arrives the way it arrived for Joseph, in a morning, because when preparation is complete, the reversal does not need time. It only needs permission. And what God is saying through this message right now is that your Kairos is near. The formation that happened in the silence, the depth that grew in the isolation, the character that was built in the prison seasons. It was all leading to a moment, and that moment is not somewhere further down the road. The Joseph who went into the pit and the Joseph who stood before Pharaoh were not two different people, but the one who came out had been built by the pit in ways the one who went in had not yet become. That is who you are standing as right now. But here is what I have to tell you before we go any further. Because there is something that happens between the moment of Kairos arriving and the moment of actually stepping into it. There is a gap, a threshold. And inside that threshold, most chosen ones encounter something the enemy has worked very carefully to keep hidden. Something that has been sitting between the promise and its fulfillment. Something that explains why the door can feel impossible to walk through, even when everything is ready. Stay with me, because what comes next is going to change how you see yourself. Let me tell you about the moment most people skip when they tell Joseph's story. The moment between the prison and the palace. The moment where the guards came to get him and Joseph had to actually stand up and walk through a door his entire history told him was not meant for him. He had been in a prison cell long enough for it to feel like home. And notice what happens right before he steps before Pharaoh. They change his clothes, not a minor detail. An act of putting on a new identity before entering the new assignment. Because before the new assignment can be received, the old identity has to be laid down. The enemy does not need to lock the door to your next season. He does not need to prevent the Kairos moment from arriving. He only needs to keep you identifying with the version of yourself that was built for the pit. Because if he can keep you operating on the frequency of who you used to be, you will stand at the door of everything God prepared. And you will find a way to convince yourself you are not the one it was prepared for. Here is what happens after years of surviving a waiting season. Your nervous system builds a frequency around the experience of being stuck. Not because you are weak, because that is what nervous systems do. They adapt to the environment they are in. And when that environment has been delay, isolation, exhaustion, and silence long enough, the brain begins to treat that frequency as home, as safe. And when something new appears, something actually aligned with the promise, the system does not celebrate. It resists. Because what registers as threat is not the old thing. It is the new thing moving toward you. So let me say this to you directly. The enemy does not need to stop you. He only needs you to stop yourself. And the mechanism by which most chosen ones do that is not doubt about God. It is unresolved agreement with the old identity, the version that was built to survive the wilderness, the version that learned to shrink, to wait, to pour out without receiving, to labor in the hidden place. That version served you in the pit, but it cannot enter the palace. Pharaoh does not bow before the version of you that the pit built. He bows before the one that God built through it. And there is a difference between those two that requires a decision at the threshold. And this is where the science and the spirit converge very specifically. The suppressed gamma frequency we talked about in the first part of this message is not just a medical observation. It is the measurable frequency of the old survival identity, the same static that sits between you and the voice of God, the same pattern that makes the palace feel out of reach even when you are standing at its gate. And what Dr. Lake spent 34 years building is designed to address that exact pattern. Which brings me back to what I named earlier in this message and told you I would return to fully. Earlier in this message, when we were still in the first sections of what I needed to show you, I introduced the genius song. Now I want to give you the full picture. Dr. Lake's research confirmed something very specific. The gamma frequency does not automatically reactivate when circumstances change. The survival signal stays engaged even when the threat is gone. Without something that directly addresses the frequency, a person can stand at the open door and still be transmitting on the old signal. That is not a spiritual failure. It is biological. And Dr. Lake understood that if it is measurable, it is solvable. What his research also found is that this pattern is concentrated in a specific type of person, those with strong spiritual discernment, those who have been in extended seasons of delay, those who have labored faithfully in the hidden place and built a depth that others around them cannot easily see. The very people most suppressed by the decline effect are the same people most equipped to receive what gamma reactivation makes possible. He called this the dual wave pattern, and he built everything he built for the people who carry both waves. For the people in exactly the season you just came through. I want to tell you about a woman who sat exactly where you are. A teacher, 22 years in a classroom. People who knew her described her as extraordinary at reaching students no one else could reach. But outside that room she lived in a fog, heaviness in prayer. Knowing the promise was real but unable to get any traction on it, she started listening to the genius song, not with certainty. Without a reason left not to try. 3 weeks later, she wrote to say the fog had lifted, not in a dramatic moment. One morning she simply woke up and thought clearly, for the first time in longer than she could remember. I know some of you have tried things before. Meditation, healing sounds, prayer disciplines. Some helped, some did not. If you are wondering whether this is different, the answer lies in the mechanism. What you tried before worked at the level of intention. Brain entrainment works at the level of the frequency itself. It does not ask your brain to change. It creates the conditions in which the brain can reorganize. That is not one more thing in the same category. And before I give you the number, I want to say something to those holding it carefully. $39 is a real decision for many people watching this. I would never dismiss that. Let me show you what it stands beside. The Genius Song is a 7-minute digital audio track delivered directly to you by email. You listen through stereo headphones in stillness, not while driving, not while doing anything else. You sit and receive, and the technology Dr. Lake embedded in it does what intention and willpower have not been able to reach. No state to achieve first, no technique to master. It begins working from the first session, and when the shift comes, it does not always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it arrives the way it did for the teacher, as a morning that simply feels different. A single biofeedback session runs around $300. A monthly meditation app is $15 and asks your brain to carry the full weight alone. None of those specifically target gamma. Dr. Lake condensed 34 years of that specific research into 7 minutes. The original price was $49. For those watching this video, it is available at $39. One time, no subscription. 4 additional resources valued at $80 combined come with it and are yours to keep, regardless of what you decide. Other tools in Dr. Lake's restoration framework carry different price points because they involve different technologies and different phases of the work. But this first entry point was designed to be accessible to the people who need it most in this exact season. Every day the old frequency stays in place is a day you receive on the old signal. Every prayer filtered through suppressed gamma. Every decision shaped by the frequency of the pit. The cost of waiting is not neutral. It is the cost of one more day at the threshold instead of inside the room. And the version of you that exists on the other side of this the one who woke up one morning and thought clearly for the first time in years. That version is not far. It is not further than the decision you are making right now. You do not need certainty. You only need to be willing to let the frequency shift before you ask anything else to. Before you go looking for this anywhere else, I need to protect you. There are imitation products using this name with no embedded technology, no real brain entrainment, and no research behind them. Audio files wearing the right title that will do nothing for the frequency you need to shift. The enemy creates decoys. Guard what you are about to invest in. The only authentic source with the full verified technology and the money-back guarantee is in the link below. Do not search third-party marketplaces. What you find there will not be what we have been talking about tonight. The link is in the description and in the first 3 positions of the pinned comment below. The door is open. Dr. Lake made this available for this season. Use it. For those who receive the Genius Song today, what you are stepping into is the beginning of a sequence Dr. Lake designed, not the completion of one. What comes after this first door reveals itself when you are ready for it. The doors that follow cannot be reached without first walking through the one that is open right now. This is the step that makes the rest of the journey possible. Now, I want to close this with you, because after the formation season, after Joseph and the palace, after the frequency that is about to shift, there is one more thing that needs to happen before you walk away from this message. I want to speak something over your life, a prayer that seals what God has been building in this season and opens what He is releasing right now. Stay with me for these final few minutes. What comes next is the most important part of everything we have walked through tonight. Now, let me bring this home. Everything we walked through tonight, the formation season, the science, the Joseph pattern, the tool Dr. Lake built, and the prayer coming next, none of it was designed to leave you more informed. It was designed to leave you different, to leave you standing on a different side of the threshold than the one you started on. And the only thing left between where you arrived tonight and where God has been preparing you to walk is one final act of the Spirit. I want to close every open door we walked through together in this message. You came in wondering what moment God has been preparing you for. You now know it is this one. You came in wondering what you would lose if you ignored this message. I want to tell you clearly, you would lose nothing that has not already been taken from you. But you would forfeit the recognition that the formation is complete, that the season has served its full purpose, and that the Chadash, the new thing that can only be born when the old thing has fully ended, is not approaching. It is here. I want to give you a prayer now. I want you to pray it from inside your spirit. Not as a performance, not as words to say correctly, but as a genuine transaction between you and the God who has been watching every single moment of this season. You do not need to stop driving. You do not need to close your eyes. You only need to mean what you are about to say. Let the words come from the place inside you that has been waiting for this permission. This is that moment. Father, I come to you from the end of a season that has cost me more than most people around me will ever know. I acknowledge before you that I have been in preparation. I have been in the wilderness. I have been in places that looked like nothing was happening, where the promises felt like they belonged to a different version of me, where the silence stretched so long I began to wonder if you had changed your mind. I release now every agreement I have made in that silence with the version of myself that was built to survive it. I release the identity of the one who waits without expectation, the one who learned to take up less space so others could be comfortable. I release every lie I have believed about my timeline, every thought that I was late, every conclusion that I had missed my moment. I let it fall. I do not carry it through this door. Father, I receive now what you have been holding in this moment for me. I receive the identity of the one you built through the pit, not the one who entered it. I receive the kairos that was written before the waiting began. I receive the chadash, the new thing that could not have been born without the old thing ending completely. I receive the clarity that is returning to my mind, the alignment that is coming back to my spirit, the frequency that has been waiting to come back online in the deepest part of who I am. I do not receive these things because I have earned them. I receive them because you have prepared them, and because this is the moment you said. I receive it all, not piece by piece, not tentatively. I receive it now. I declare that I am not the version of myself who entered the pit. I am the one who was built by it. I declare that I am not late. I am not forgotten. I am not behind. I declare that what was taken from me in this season is being returned now with purpose, with interest, and with a clarity that could only have been earned in the hidden place. I declare that the palace does not belong to someone who has never suffered. It belongs to the one who went through the pit, through the wilderness, through the silence, and came out carrying something that was not there before. I declare that I am that one. I am ready, and I choose to walk through this door. That prayer was not words. That prayer was a declaration over your spiritual history, over every season of formation that the enemy tried to convince you was abandonment, over every month of waiting that God was using to build something in you that the breakthrough is going to need. And what you just spoke is real. It has weight. It carries the authority of someone who has been through exactly what chosen ones are sent through before they are trusted with what God is about to release through them. You are not the same person who pressed play on this message. Something has shifted. You are the chosen one who has come through the formation, the one who labored in the hidden place and built what cannot be manufactured. The cycle breaker, the one at the threshold, the one whose gamma frequency is about to return to the level it was always designed to operate at. The one who wears the new clothes before Pharaoh, the one whose Joseph moment has arrived. Walk into it. Do not negotiate with the pit about whether you deserve the palace. God already answered that question. He answered it by bringing you through every single thing that brought you here tonight. Before you leave, I want you to do one more thing. If this message has spoken to something real in your spirit tonight, I want you to go into the comments below and type something. Type the words, "I am still here," as a declaration that you made it through the formation and you are still standing. Type, "I see it," as a confirmation that you can see the moment that has been preparing you. Type, "I release" if you are letting go of the old identity tonight. Type, "I receive" if you are saying yes to what God has been holding. And if you are ready to walk through the door, type exactly those words. I am ready. Let heaven see it. Let it be the seal. And now, I want to say something to those of you who chose to receive the Genius Song tonight. After you complete your order, Dr. Lake's system may present you with something additional. A second door, not an obligation, not a requirement, just the next phase of what he built becoming visible to you. I want you to know it is coming so that when it appears it does not feel like a surprise. Give it a moment of honest attention. If your spirit says yes, take it. If it does not, skip it and move forward with what you already received. Both choices are honored. Your $39 for the Genius Song is not contingent on anything beyond that purchase. And for those of you further along in your readiness, I want to say this. When the next invitation arrives, whether it is today after checkout or in the coming days as you settle into what tonight has opened, you will recognize it. The language will feel familiar. The themes will connect directly to what we walked through in this message. You will not need anyone to convince you. You will simply know. And when you know, trust what you know. That recognition is not coincidence. It is the pattern arriving exactly when it was designed to arrive, at the moment of readiness. And your readiness is now. If this message found you tonight, it was not for you alone. There is someone in your circle right now sitting in the same formation season, carrying the same weight, asking the same questions you walked in here with. Subscribe to this channel and share this video with them, not for the views, so that this message can reach the chosen one who is one step behind where you were tonight and still needs to hear that their season has a purpose. And when you press like, you are not pressing a button. You are sending a signal that reaches another person sitting in the dark of their waiting and shows them that someone on the other side found the light. Go now. You came in carrying a season. You are leaving it here. What walks out with you tonight is not what walked in. The frequency is shifting. The kairos is at hand. The formation is complete. Chosen one, this was the moment he has been preparing you for. And now you know exactly what to do with it. I will see you in the next one.